Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Katie, and this is Monumental, a small show about the big things God does in the lives of ordinary people.
In the fall of 2018, we interviewed the mother of My Soul Among Lions band leader Valerie Killingsworth. She's wife, mother of 5, and grandmother of 18. Valerie got together with us to talk about her cancer diagnosis.
This episode is dedicated to her family in loving memory of Valerie Killingsworth, who went to be with the Lord on July 26, 2019.
Her expressed wish, as you will hear, was to leave her family the testimony of her life and faith in Jesus Christ. So you're from Missouri.
Grandparents and great-grandparents, southwest corner of Missouri.
And you never dreamed of moving away, or?
No.
So how did you meet Lonnie?
We were in high school, senior year. Well, first of all, I'll back up. In my junior year, I had some pretty crazy dates. And I got on my knees at the end of my junior year and said, I'm not going to date anybody else until you show me who I'm going to marry. And so I skipped homecoming, skipped all those things. And
you were committed to that.
Yeah. And then there was a music contest, and he saw me there because I was accompanying someone. And then his closest thing to a sister was a really good friend of mine. And we sat in choir together, and so she would just keep telling me about him. And so finally in February, he called of our senior year, and that started that, and 2 years later, we were married. And
so how long have you been married now?
45 years.
Wow.
We married at 19 and 20. He had just turned 20. It's been a good ride.
Yeah.
It's been very good. So Lonnie hasn't been off the road he was born on. Now we have a son that hasn't either. He built a home on that road on family land. And I moved from the town, Springfield, out to Walnut Grove to the farm.
Okay.
But I'm so glad I got to raise my children on the farm. So that was...
What kind of farm is it?
Just cattle. Okay. And that's we don't do crops. We just do cattle. Some horses.
So how many kids do you have?
5. 3 by birth and 2 by adoption.
So when did you become a Christian?
That's a good question. I made a profession of faith at 7 years old. I think true salvation probably happened more when I was 20, right after I was married. But I'm not sure which. Mm-hmm. I just know I am now.
God's, yeah.
Really, where the Spirit comes on you and you know, and the Word of God comes alive, and I kind of think I was just following what kids did at that time. And so that's pretty much when it was something very, very special.
I thought maybe if you might be able to explain a little bit of what your life was like before you were diagnosed with cancer. And
I haven't thought about that in a couple of years because I've been living so much in this now. But thinking back, life was pretty easy. And I had been praying for several years that, God, I just need more motivation. I don't know what you want me to do at this point. The kids are all gone. So I was praying for something that way. And in August, my father had late term onset asthma. Mm-hmm. And so I was having this funny breathing sensation. And so I thought, I'm getting his asthma. I noticed when I laid down with the grandkids to sing to them, it was like my air was traveling over gravel, kind of feeling. And but I still thought, when the holidays get over, I need to go
check it out.
And see what they're going to give me for asthma.
Okay, right, yeah.
And so then I went on a ski trip in January, right after the holidays. And I thought, okay, I'll wait till I get back and we'll go see. And it was in the mountains that God brought that to be.
Probably almost made it worse. Or
made it much worse.
With the altitude and everything.
Well, by the time I was feeling that breath over my gravelly kind of feeling,
right.
that means it had already gone to the fluid, the pleural cavity around my lung. So it was no longer just a tumor. While the tumor was just growing, I didn't feel a thing.
Right.
But then, by the time I got to the mountains, it was pretty much all the way full.
Oh, wow.
And that, finally our oldest son said, would you just take her in there to the ER, because it was a full Denver ER on the ski slope. So I did, and she said, well, you just don't have any history for, no cancer in our family.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually no major diseases in my parents. And she finally took an x-ray and then came back in and said, you've got a lot of old fluid in your lungs. And it filled up. And so she said, I think you need to get her off the mountain as soon as possible. We were leaving the next morning, and they sent me back to the condo with oxygen.
Oh, wow.
And came home, and we drove straight to the emergency room. We spent one night in Kansas coming home, and that was a difficult night. We had to prop up and try to, where I could get breath, because I didn't have the oxygen anymore.
Right.
So I went to the hospital, and they said, oh, it can't be cancer, it's just pneumonia. And so they treated me for pneumonia for a few days, and then drained that fluid and tested it, and I found that out.
So here you are up in Colorado mountains, and I went back and read some of your entries, your posts, and I mean, you were really intense about getting out there and skiing.
Yes, I did ski.
And I was like, wow, I don't know if I would have the energy or strength to do that. And you were trying to just push through go for it, which just told me how much you seem to be a go-getter.
I was.
Just about, I mean, here you are traveling and being with grandkids and skiing on Colorado mountains.
Were you able to do some skiing? Or did it hinder
Yes,
you?
but I had to stop every little bit.
Yeah.
And didn't know why, except I hadn't skied in a long time, so I thought, well, age
out of
and
shape,
all of that. But I could ski down, and then getting in line for the lift was hard.
Back up,
But I would rest on the way up, ski down again. So, but I kept it on simple.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it is. So how long ago was this?
January of 2017.
So then you came home, you went to the ER, they actually admitted you for a night, tested the fluid around your lungs, and found out what?
They drained that fluid.
Okay.
And they drained a lot of fluid and then sent it off to test. But in the meantime, a different hospitalist came in and passed the baton. This one's got pneumonia. They never even really
considered anything else.
And
so they probably started treating you for pneumonia.
Oh, they did. Yeah. Yeah, they did.
How long were you in the hospital then?
Probably 5 days. And maybe it was 3 days, and then I was 2 days at home waiting for my primary doctor to call.
Right.
So, that was, and then we drove in on a Friday afternoon. She wanted to see us.
Yeah.
That kind of made us know something's not quite right here.
Yeah.
And actually I finally got a doctor to go back and look at the chest x-ray or CT scan from the emergency room, one of the hospitalists. And I had had a car wreck. I thought maybe that lung is just damaged from that. But he called me at home that night, and he said, I went back and took another look. Maybe the first look. I just, I'm sorry, I forget my train of thought because of that whole brain radiation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry.
So you'll have to help me.
So you went back to look at the x-ray or the chest scan and gave you a call that night.
He said, I went back to look at it, and you're right, something else is going on. The first ER doctor said, I see a mass. But when he turned it over to the hospitalist, he said it can't be.
Pneumonia.
Not with her age, not with her history, not with her.
Just going with statistics, not with actually
right. And so
evidence they had.
Friday afternoon, we drove in, and that's when I have a very wonderful primary, and she sat down and said, "You've got I can't even remember the word, adenocarcinoma," and that may not be pronounced exactly right, but I haven't said that in a long time.
Yeah.
I just say lung cancer.
Right.
And so, and she said, "I'm so sorry," but she set me up with an oncologist immediately. And first, after we drove home that afternoon on Friday, we sat in the driveway, and Lonnie and I both said, if something happened today, we've had a wonderful childhood, both of us had. We've had a wonderful marriage, and we're just going to say thank you to God for what He's done, and we'll just go with this. And who are we not to have something like this? Is kind of how we looked at it, and he did too, which he has all along. It's just not. I mean, it's a struggle, and there's been tears, but we're just both very grateful.
Strengthened each other with your faith.
And we really did have a wonderful childhood and a wonderful marriage. And so here we are, and we're still having that wonderful marriage. And I don't know what God has planned, but it could be a long time from now. It could be, He could heal anytime He wants to.
That's right.
Yeah.
But He may choose not to. We just want to accept what God's got for us. And so that's kind of where we are.
Did they ever give you like a timeline or anything like that? I mean,
yes.
Often you hear people.
The first oncologist I saw was pretty matter-of-fact and crude, and I guess she thought I knew all about lung cancer. But she said, yes, you'll have this drug, Alimta, and when it runs out, it'll usually take 1 to 3 years, and that's how long you'll have.
Oh, wow.
And and then I had some little spots on my brain, but they didn't enhance for cancer yet. And she said, oh, don't worry about those. Those don't enhance for cancer. I got spots on my brain. And so we were not pleased with that oncologist.
At that point, you're thinking, second opinion.
Second opinion, please.
and we had planned to get a second one. And Jody, our second son, did a lot of the research and found Dr. Leo in Bolivar. He called at home as soon as our primary sent the scans to him, and he said, I need you here tomorrow. And so he stayed after work to see us. And he said, what did they tell you about the spots on your brain? She said, not to worry about them. They don't enhance for cancer. So he said, there is only one reason you have spots on your brain.
Yeah.
That's because you have lung cancer. And it's metastasized to there. Wow. And so it will show us cancer. And it did.
Wow.
Very soon after. And
so did you get into treatment right away? What happened?
Yes. Got into chemo right away. And, well, first they had to put a port in, and then they took a biopsy. Then they put a drain in so we could drain the fluid ourselves at home and not go to the hospital every time. So we had several procedures before I could get started. But within that month, I got started on chemo.
Yeah.
Right.
So how often do you have to drain the fluid?
Well, it's all drained and dried up. I got a horrible infection on that where that went in, and I was 6 days in the hospital a year ago, June. And that was a pretty scary time, but we got that taken care of, and so they pulled the drain out, and I haven't had to have it again I have very little pleural effusion down in the lower right.
Is there any explanation for that?
Well, the chemo and all kind
That
of
would-
dried up that fluid, which
then-
had cancer in it.
Right. So you're breathing right now, and today is, you're not struggling as much with that?
No, not at all. I'm doing really well. No.
You can sleep at night.
Yes, very well, very well.
That's
I'm
wonderful,
not
yeah.
having trouble breathing.
Yeah.
That's great.
At this point, and
Sing with your grandkids.
they're the only ones that would want me to sing.
I don't know if I believe that.
That's true.
So what was it like after you found out you had cancer, having to tell your family that kind of news?
That was hard.
No.
That was hard. And but they had, through that 1 week waiting on that to, they had guessed. And I remember Katie asked me when I called, and I said, we're on our way to the doctor. And she said, did she call you to come in, or you're just going? I said, she called us. And so they were putting
Putting the pieces together.
Yes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, even when you
was so
when you hear the words,
It's still, you
just
kind of
different.
want to fight that until you actually hear it and it's concrete. It's really hard to grasp that.
And the truth about lung cancer, at least what I was told, is I will probably always have chemo the rest of my life. It's not like that there's a certain number of, because it never goes away.
right?
Okay.
So you've got lung cancer always. Right now mine is stable, and that's the great news to my doctor.
Yeah.
And so it's not that it's going to disappear.
Okay.
But he did finally tell me, because I was doing so well, if I made it 3 years, then they'd start watching it for 2 years. If it didn't come back,
Without chemo or with chemo?
Without chemo.
Without chemo.
I think they would watch it and see which direction it went, and then start. But that's when they call it remission, is if
Okay.
you can make it the 5 years.
Okay.
And even though the cancer's still there, it's not doing anything.
Right. It's like
Wow.
dormant.
Okay. So I
Yes.
wondered, about that.
So,
Is
'cause
it- can you
I
go
said-
into remission? It sounds like you can.
Very few do.
Right.
Very few do. So I don't know what to expect, except
Yeah.
I just, God, whatever you say, that's what we'll do.
What has God, how has he shown himself to you? How do you know him more in this time?
Well, through his word, definitely. It's when you've got something major going on in your life, his word says so much more, really, in lots of ways. And so I do know him better, and I think contentment has been a big lesson to learn, and I would have always said I was content, but now it's tested.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, can I be content with? And some days I'm not. But
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you ever struggle with anger or fear, or how do you?
I really haven't with anger. Fear of what the days ahead will be like, yes.
Sure. Yeah.
But anger, that day in the driveway, we kind of said how we were going to do this.
Yeah.
And so, but being content with what I cannot do anymore, and what,
Right.
even with the grandkids, I can't be exactly the grandmother I'd love to be with them. And yet I know I'm just what God wants me to be if I just do what I can do. But I know sometimes I'm sad. And there were some nights, like the first time I came to Indiana afterwards, I cried a lot in bed
Sure.
that night. And picture Paloma walking down the aisle, and I think, I probably won't be here for that. And so I just can't go there.
Right.
And that I just have to say I've got today, and we'll see how many days, but that's just kind of where I am, you know. And
Is Paloma your oldest grandchild?
Paloma is the oldest.
Paloma's the
She's
oldest.
10.
Okay.
Well, your and Lonnie's response when you sat in the driveway when you got home after first hearing that news, it kind of reminded me of when Job first found out all the bad news and how his first response was to praise God.
Yes.
And to just say, God brings good and evil, and this is the work of his hand, and so
Right.
we will praise him.
I just really believe that nothing comes into my life that it hasn't gone across the desk and been stamped by God first.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of how it has been. And 2017 was a rough year. I had whole brain radiation, and I had great fatigue after, did not feel good those months. And then when I got past that, 2018, this has been a better year. And, you know, the scans are better, all of that. And but I do have a scan every 2 months on my brain and every 2 months on my torso.
Is it tempting to feel defined by your cancer?
A little bit. Funny thing, when Lonnie and I just finished going to 3 different canyons in the West.
Oh, cool.
And Grand Canyon and Zion and Bryce canyons.
Oh, those are beautiful.
And they were. We just had to go at my pace, slow, but we got to see them.
Oh, that's so neat.
Slow's better for those kinds of things anyways.
Yeah.
That I needed
take
to
it all
have put
in.
a sign around my neck that said, yes, I have cancer. People would look at my hat, and because I didn't wear the wig, I wore a hat.
Just a hat, yeah.
Yes, and you didn't see hardly, I think I saw one other that might possibly have been. But they just sure stared like, yeah, I'm doing this.
Did you hike or did you?
Some. Yes, some.
That's so cool.
Easy hikes. We didn't do the
Good for
Well,
you.
still.
we didn't do the rough ones down that we would have done younger. But
People should have been like, go you.
I
Good for you
know.
for doing
and
it.
so they probably were, but it was just so funny. Lonnie
Right.
said, "You just need a sign around your." So yes, it does
Yeah.
define.
Well, I'm sure you spend a lot of time thinking about it because it's so much of your time is consumed with treatment and the side effects,
yeah.
fatigue and limitations.
And pills to take every day.
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that. So
Well, and
it's-
even deciding what am I going to do with my time? What do I want to see? Who do I want to spend my time with?
yes,
It's all really determined. I mean, it would seem logical for it to be determined by, I don't know the future, and I have this cancer, and
right. And I have a lot of friends that are very intentional towards me, wanting
Right.
to see me, and so I spend a lot of families first, and then spend a lot of time with friends,
yeah.
and then I usually have to rest every day,
Yeah.
so I have to take a nap.
Yeah.
And so the energy, but that's the chemo affecting me. They described last time the weakness and the tiredness, and
Yeah.
so that helped me understand that that's just part of the side effect that
Right.
I am having.
So aside from the obvious side effects and just having cancer and how that affects you and the treatment, everything that you have to go through, how has having cancer affected how you live in terms of, I mean, you went out west and did these hikes, and you want to spend more time with family. Is it shaping how you're wanting to spend your time now?
Definitely. definitely it does. We've all, in the last 2 years, the kids and all, we've seen each other a lot more than we were before. And so we're trying to. But now it's kind of, I'm at the point where you look at it and say, oh, she's kind of always had cancer because it's been 2 years, and so we're getting accustomed to it, I guess,
Right.
is the way to say that. And so it's, at first we thought we've got to get together every time there's a break.
Yeah.
And so I think that's lessening a little bit. But it's still always on my mind, and I know theirs too, and that can change, because one scan can change it,
Right.
at any point in direction. But I don't know.
How has it impacted or changed your relationships with your friends and family?
They're more precious than ever, really. Just want to get all of it we can and absorb it and enjoy it. We're just trying to do as many fun things as we can with what we've got.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, first thing I wanted to do after I was diagnosed was to have my sister and her whole family up to Missouri for just a holiday. And so we spent money on our backyard and thought that's where they're going to come from now on, and my grandkids. And so
You wanted a good hangout spot.
So we have a zip line, we have a
cool
teeter-totter, we have a sandbox, we have a new driveway where they can ride up and down. And
bikes. And,
so,
just creating space to be able to spend time together.
Yes, and with that many, without cancer, we can't go anywhere, can we? No, so we just
got to bring the fun home.
But they're all good help, and so it makes it really special. So it has changed things. Our perspectives we don't take for granted.
Mm-hmm. Which is really something for all of us to think about.
Right.
Because it's really how all of us should be viewing life, but we get comfortable and we start taking our time for granted, and but we should all be living like we're dying, because we are. And it says in the Psalms, teach me to number my days so that I may gain wisdom, I think. And so it's what we should all be doing without cancer diagnosis. But
absolutely. I've thought about that a lot. That this is what I was praying for. This is how I need to live every day, but it took cancer for me to. And God knows it takes something usually.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of verses that mean even more. Count it all joy. And that says all joy.
Yeah.
In everything.
Yeah.
And so this is part of it.
Do you ever feel like this is just evil? This can't be from God?
No, I've had a lot of people, not a lot of people, I've had some people say this is from Satan. And I just don't believe that. I believe it is from God. I just believe it is from God. And it may look and feel like it's from Satan at times, but I don't believe even he can't have permission without God's. Okay. It really is, bottom line, from God. And nothing can touch me except that God says it can. And so, that's just the truth of it, how to do it. So no, I don't look at this as evil. Not that sin can't still come into that picture. And so you have to be on your guard all the time to get sin forgiven and stay walking pure. That's not easy to do, but that's the part, I guess, that I don't call it evil. I just call it sin. But it comes in to play.
So how has God used your cancer for good? If it's not evil, or if it's not of Satan, it's of God, how has he used it for good?
Well, I have an awful lot of people that I don't even know that will send me a note or come up to me and say, I just read your CaringBridge all the time, and it blesses me. And I see, there's many thousand visits on it.
Wow.
And I don't even know where they come
Who
from.
they are. Yeah.
No, I
Wow,
don't.
that's awesome.
So I think that's one way that he's used it for good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't quite really understand that because it's just kind of a story.
Right.
I don't, but I really do get some fantastic testimonies from what God's doing through that.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that thinking about cancer is consuming?
It's more consuming than I wish it was.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could just set it on the back burner, but a couple of days I think I've gotten up and thought, are they sure I'm right? They're right on the diagnosis. I don't feel cancer today.
Yeah.
But before that day's over, I do.
Yeah.
And so it's there all the time.
Mm-hmm. So is that something that is sometimes a distraction from thinking about God? I think it sounds from your testimony that mostly it's driving you to God, but I wonder, have there been times where it has been a distraction to you from thinking about God?
Oh, yeah, I believe so. And it's easy to pay attention to the physical body, easier than paying attention to the spiritual body. Your physical body is a distraction in lots of times, and not feeling good. And so I think it is. I have to be really on my guard and work really hard to keep the focus being Him.
So what do you do to keep your focus on the Lord?
Well, the first year, my sister gave me a book, Paul David Tripp, and so I went through that book, and that helped a whole lot to keep focused. And then I went through, right before cancer came, I finished going all the way through that MacArthur Bible. And now I'm really kind of searching as to where I need to go in the Word, or what my guide needs to be. And so I'm needing to find which way to head on all of that. And but I think the Word of God is where, you got to make sure you get that first. Yeah. And then, and I need to do better at that. Because I can get used to having cancer, and that this is my day. And so it kind of like when the diagnosis first comes on anything, you're driven to Him.
Yeah.
And then you can just get accustomed.
You can kind of fall back into a norm again.
Yeah. Yes, this is my new norm. And so I don't want to do that, but that's what I'm fighting right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of that way.
How much confidence do you put in the odds?
Yeah.
Doctors are always giving odds and things like that to either, to encourage you or whatnot. So how much, as a believer, how much stock do we put in that?
Well, God kind of told me at the beginning, I don't know, told me, but I felt impressed just to let my husband guide which way and who we listened to and what we did. And that has served me well to do that. He watches close. He's very much a caretaker. Made sure I had a Tylenol before I went out the door this morning. Because it helps a whole lot. Yeah, it does. Just one. And that's kind of been my go-to. But he's just very, very good at that. And
it even sounds like with what you're saying and what you said earlier about just the day you guys got your diagnosis, Lonnie was like, we're going to be thankful.
Yes.
And just kind of led you in that from the beginning.
A lot of people have asked him if he's angry, but I really don't see it. He'll tell people we're just both sad.
Yeah.
And but he's the one that's kind of guiding how I do this, and that gives me a lot of that I don't have to think about that. Yes, it does give me a lot of peace and comfort to let him that way. So
a doctor's odds you're not going to really worry about because God's in control. And
No, and I trust my doctor.
yeah.
As much as you can trust a doctor. But I know who's really in control of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's using him, and he may not even realize he's being used by God,
Right.
but he is.
Yeah. How has having cancer changed how you think about death?
I think about heaven a whole lot more. You know, we kind of put it off in our thoughts.
Yeah.
My dad lived to be 97 years old,
Wow.
and I had a lot of his genes and makeup and
Yeah.
looks, all of that. And so I just kind of assumed I would have a very long life. But now I think about heaven a lot. And it's a hard balance to say goodbye and leave, and yet look forward to heaven.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an oxymoron going on.
Yeah.
But that's what I find myself doing.
Right.
You know, it does seem exciting to see the Lord and to see that heavenly home, but then if I have any thoughts about family, about it's hard
That's
to
when you can sad again.
balance all that out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the Word of God, I see He brings out so many scriptures I never attributed to eternity. And so then you can look those up, and there's a whole lot more about heaven than I ever knew there was in there.
That's neat.
So it's been a good guide to the Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a practical way, sometimes, when we talk to people who are suffering through something like cancer, it's hard to know what to ask, what's actually helpful to ask or to say. What's actually helpful?
I don't know. Not everybody is as open as I am, I guess, because that's just more my personality. I often tell people, I'm so sorry for your diagnosis, and just sympathize with them and just love on them, especially at the beginning. And they don't really need any words of advice, or I just kind of sympathize with them. But also to tell people that this is a journey, and it can be a really neat journey as you travel it. But that's a hard one, because everybody's so different.
Right. Yeah.
I think in the very beginning, just a hug and just loving on them is because they're hurting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're in shock. I was in shock.
Sure.
I tried to make it be pneumonia, tried to make it be car wreck, but not cancer.
Yeah.
'Cause that didn't fit my family history.
Right.
And, and lung cancer. I just thought people who smoked
Right.
Yeah.
might get lung cancer, but I've never had one in my mouth. So, it just, where did that come from? And
Right.
Yeah.
so, which it's a gene or genes that mutated in the wrong way.
Right.
And so there's not a lot of help for that kind of lung cancer.
Almost does make it clearer, though, how much it is from God, though.
Right.
It's not.
Right. It's. I wouldn't have been as surprised with another kind of cancer.
Right.
But lung cancer, I
Right.
just thought, where in the world that, that's what it is. So,
Well, you're the beloved Gigi.
oh,
I hear a lot about Gigi from all the grandkids.
oh, how sweet.
And they love you.
Well, Ambrose loves Grandpa. Yeah,
Well, you get the other 14.
not really. That's been something that I've had to adjust to. He became much more important to them, and the fun one, and the one who can do things with them. And I thought that's really how it should be. That he may be the only one at some point, and so. But I had to realize, I can't lift an Ambrose up.
Right. He's a stocky little
Yes.
guy.
Yeah, and it is not good
Right.
for my back, for my, even with cancer in my back. They're giving me bone strengthening shots. So I have to be really careful.
You can sit on the couch and hold them, but
that's right.
Pick them up.
That's right.
Yeah.
But they want you to.
Yeah, they want. They don't quite understand that. Yeah.
I don't either. I don't get that either. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's been an interesting transition. Yeah, they love their grandpa, and I'm glad.
Love their Gigi.
That's sweet.
Yes, they do. They do.
Well, speaking of your grandkids, then what? And I know you've done a lot of this writing that you've done through CaringBridge as a way of having something for your kids to have. What is it you want your kids and your grandkids to remember about your life?
That I loved God, I loved Jesus, and I loved them. That's what I hope they remember, and that we had fun, that we enjoyed life together. And but I know a lot of those tiny ones are not going to remember me if something happens sooner than later. And so that's why the CaringBridge, they'll get to know me better, and pictures.
Yeah.
I'm honest with them when they ask. They ask a lot about my hair. And Ambrose, I had the wig laying beside getting ready this morning. And he came in, got on a stool, and there was that wig, and he looked at the wig, he looked up at my hair, he looked like, what is going on?
What's missing about this picture? Yes. So, your son writes psalms with My Soul Among Lions. Which one is your favorite?
Psalm 16, the fullness of joy.
Yes.
Has stuck with me from the time that one came out, that pleasures forevermore.
At God's right hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love a lot of them on this new album, too. But that one is probably the one that is more my message than any of them, that he will make known to me the path of life.
Oh God, my refuge and my protection, I have no other good besides. Your saints who dwell on earth get my affection. In them is all of my delight. When men to idols pray, they choose corruption and cast their Maker God aside. I won't join in their way, for its destruction. Their sorrows now be multiplied. You have made known to me the path of life, where no thief enters in to destroy. At your right hand will be only pleasures forever. In your presence is fullness of joy. You are my portion, my cup of blessing. The lines for me all pleasant fall. So I will praise your name with loud professing, when I your benefits recall. With you beside me, God, I'm never shaken. My heart and flesh will dwell secure. And even in the grave, I'm not forsaken. You make your Holy One endure. You have made known to me the path of life, where no thief enters in to destroy.
Monumental is hosted by Katie Walker and Amy Molina. It is produced and edited by Katie Walker, and it is executive produced by Nathan Alberson and Jake Menzel. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate and review in the app of your choice. And if you're interested in more great content, including articles and other podcasts, please visit warhornmedia.com.
In your presence is fullness of joy. You have made known to me